Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gettysburg College for another edition of Facebook Live. We're glad you can join us this afternoon. My name is Braden Snyder, and today we're joined by senior Sarah Congdon of the Gettysburg College women's track and field team. Although the Bullets competed in a meet back in early December, they start their season in earnest on Saturday at the Lehigh University Paul Covert Classic. Sarah is a biology major from Seoul, New Jersey, and a team co-captain this season. She's made her mark as one of the team's top long sprinters and hurdlers over the past 3 seasons. Some of her accomplishments: she's the school record holder in the 400-meter hurdles and the distance medley relay team. And last season, she was named All-Centennial Conference during both the indoor and outdoor seasons. She was named the Outdoor Centennial Conference 400-meter dash champion last season, and she also helped the 4x400 relay team win the Centennial Conference title as a freshman. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and talking women's track and field. Before we look at the upcoming season, I just thought we could take a moment to reflect on last year and the way the team finished at the Centennial Conference Outdoor Championships. Bullets placed third, which was a great finish. It marked the team's best finish in program history at a Centennial Conference event since 2008. Finished only behind nationally ranked Johns Hopkins and I believe Dickinson, so just a great finish. And as you look back on that meet, Sarah, can you talk about, I guess, what it was like for the team to finish as well as they did, and kind of the mood at the meet?
Sure. So we were extremely excited about that because going into the meet, we didn't know where we would place. We didn't know how the things were going to turn out. And that day itself, we remember being really cold and really windy, even though it was in May. So, of course, we thought things were going to go wrong, and there's so many bad thoughts going around the team, but we decided to stick to what we know, and we ran as hard as we could, and things turned out for the best. We didn't know until the very end of the meet that we finished third, and like you said, 10 years ago was the last time we finished that high, and it was so exciting. We were just so happy for it to happen, and we had a lot of people who helped us get there in the end, but overall, I think this year we hope to do as well again, and looking back at what we did last year, we're doing a lot of the same things, if not more. So I think it's going to be really awesome going into the season, and especially the indoor to outdoor. I think a lot of things are going to go well.
Yeah, do you think that finishing the year on a high note like that really plays into the next year, knowing that was the last meet where most of the team was competing? Did you think that adds to sort of the attitude of the team coming into the next year to finish like that?
Yeah, for a fact, the first practice coming in, we all thought that this was going to be a good year, and the coaches have done a great job at keeping us focused and not letting us get ahead of ourselves because we did so well. But we did lose a lot of talent that I think that played a major role when that happened. So we've told the new people, they all know it went down last year. They've seen all the posts and things like that. So it does feel like a lot of expectation, but we've managed to, as a team, become a family and decide like whatever happens, and we're going to make the best of it. And I don't know what will happen. I really hope it would be the same, if not better. But we're excited to see how the season plays out.
Yeah, you talked about some of the seniors who graduated. Amanda Sorrow, Sarah Graham, two that come to mind, who were, I believe, both school record holders, all region performers. So they will certainly be missed. But a lot of talent returning. Jumping ahead to this year, it would appear as if the team is primed for another strong season. There are 26 returning athletes. 5 of the 6 All-Centennial Conference performers from last year are coming back. There's already a school record broken at that meet in December. At Franklin and Marshall, senior Michaela Collins broke the indoor shot put record. So with that in mind, what do you think will be some of the team's key strengths this year?
I think we have a lot of underdogs coming into the season, and that's what happened at the meet last year. The underdogs really rose to the competition. Even though we had the big names, Sarah Graham and Amanda Sorrow, we were so happy for everybody's performance. And this year we're trying to build from that because even though we weren't they weren't all first places or second places. You place first through eighth, and those eighth to first places, as many names of Gettysburg that we can get in there mean a lot, and that's what ended up happening. So coming into this year, they all want to do better, and they want those first places and second places. So just the drive that I see with the girls and the focus, I really think is going to make a difference when it comes down to that.
Of course, track and field is made up of a lot of different areas: jumps, sprints, hurdles, pole vault, throws, and distance is an area. And the nice thing about one of the things about track and field is you kind of know going into the season what you're getting a little bit from your distance group because they've already ran cross country, and you certainly have two standouts when it comes to the distance team, and Elizabeth Halefrank, your co-captain, along with Sarah Reinhardt, who both qualified for the NCAA Division III national championships last year. Elizabeth took home All-America honors. So can you talk a little bit about the impact those two maybe will have this year, along with what was a pretty talented distance team this year?
And interesting enough, Elizabeth was abroad in the spring when we got the third place finish, so who knows where we would have been if she was here, but we're really excited to have her for the season. And after I had the privilege of being cross-country manager in the fall, and after watching them and their practices and their meets, they are two wonderful individuals who really enjoy the sport and really know what they're doing. And so having them as almost like a backbone coming into the season is going to mean a lot for the distance girls as well as the throws and the jumps and the sprints. And I'm really excited to be able to compete with them. And going into it, we've all kind of talked about, Elizabeth and I have said this is our last year, this is the last time we'll do this, so we really want to go out with a bang. And she has been so wonderful with the All-American and things like that, and we're expecting, no pressure, Elizabeth, but we're expecting big things from her.
Well, she's only continued to improve across the board during her career, and certainly has been a leader on the team, on both teams. Speaking of the team this year, has the team set any goals, do you think, this year, team-wise or individually? I don't know if that's something that's been discussed yet, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, Thomas and I, as the captains this year, wanted to do something differently and kind of set a lifting goal for the team because we have had a lot of injuries in the past, and anything we can do to avoid that is better. So we had made a mandatory 6:30 a.m. lifting every Tuesday each week, which nobody was thrilled about, but in the long run, everybody knows it's going to help us. And for all we know, Hopkins could be doing that, and they've been national competitors, national winners, so anything we can do to rise to that level. So that's been one of the goals, is to make everybody come to that, and Coach Hartzler has been great at installing that rule. And then the practices itself, we really just want to keep the focus, and that sometimes gets to be a problem because when you have so many people, there's so many distractions and all the different events. But the focus has definitely been something we keep bringing up again and again, and helping each other out, maintaining the family vibes and things like that are really going to make a difference, I think. And that's kind of our goal, is just to keep the family going, keep the focus going, and hopefully it'll bring home some gold.
Well, you talk about a lifting program aimed at staying healthy, and I think that kind of leads into the next question I have, which is just kind of the length and the grind that the track and field season can be. It's broken into an indoor and an outdoor segment, but you actually start practicing in early November, and then you have the December meet, but really begin competing in January and compete all the way through May. And so it makes it really one of the longest seasons of any of our sports here on campus. So I guess based on your experience, how are you able to stay on top of your game over such a long period in such a physically demanding sport as track and field?
I think for the team it takes a lot of dedication and just a lot of enjoyment for the sport. Again, the November to May really is a long time, and we managed to just make it work. I've never known anything else. It's almost the same way with high school coming into it. It's just you start when you start and you finish when you finish. It's just the way things are. And it's a lot about the three-legged stool, which Coach Schenk is very big about, and that's taking care of your body, eating the right things, sleeping enough, drinking enough water. And that's just something we have to live by, and that has made a huge difference throughout my career, is just kind of focusing on what I need to do to make sure I'm taking care of my body for my races and things like that. And a lot of the times, there's going to be soreness and tightness, and it'll be in the middle of the season and something will pull, but it's just trying to be smart and taking care of the injuries ahead of time and things like that.
We mentioned earlier that you've specialized in the long sprints, mainly the 400, as well as the hurdles. Can you talk about, I guess, how your approach differs, if at all, in running a sprinting event like the 400 compared to competing in the hurdles? How's that different for you?
Yeah, I have to say hurdles and I aren't best friends, but the indoor hurdles, the 60-meter dash, is one of the better races out of the hurdles because you're just doing the 5 hurdles and you have to get going into the speed right away. And over the years I've learned it's just a ton of technique, and that's what we do a lot in the practice is just work on the technique. We might not run over them that day, but I'm still learning things my last year here. And the 400 indoors, it's very mental because it's the 2 laps in the track, and that outdoor you're just running the 1 lap and you know how much longer, but the indoor is a little more challenging. And for me personally, I'm a big fan of the 400 hurdles, which isn't until after the indoor season, right in March. But it's one of the most challenging performances that I've done physically and mentally. And some people might think that, why do you enjoy it? And I can't really explain it. It's just one of those things, you got to get over the hurdle. I've always been into that. But the 400 sprints and the 400 hurdles itself it's hard to explain. They're just different in the way you get your mindset and the way you approach the race and how you're attacking it during the race. And we have a wonderful coaching staff, which has been so great at training me in the mental and physical aspects of the races.
As we previously mentioned, you've had a lot of memorable moments here during your career at Gettysburg, between conference titles, school records, and some of the outstanding team finishes. So looking back on these last 3 years, which of these moments do you think stands out the most to you? Do you have a favorite memory or a favorite a performance maybe that you're the most proud of, or maybe there's several? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to say the first thing that came to my mind was the 4x4 my freshman year. And that was run by a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior for each of the 4 legs. And I was the freshman, and I started. And they didn't want to put pressure on me, and we were seated 5th for going into the race. So we were put in lane 8. So I started in lane 8 all the way in the outside. And my teammates and I before the race kind of said, you know what, we know what we're doing. Just go and run it. Have a good time. Beautiful day out. It was Muhlenberg. And I remember starting that race, and the whole team was watching and cheering on. And it was almost like a tunnel vision while I was running. And it was just so exciting and so exhilarating. I couldn't walk after the race because I ran it so hard. And I remember my teammates doing the same. And since I was done, after watching 2 of the legs go, and we had Katie McCoubry anchor us, she was in 3rd place, and she's running, and all of a sudden she kicked into gear and got us into 1st place, and all of our mouths dropped. We didn't know what was happening. The teams were going crazy. And to me, I've never forgotten how I felt on that day and how everything went, and the afterwards when we were celebrating. That has definitely been my most favorite Gettysburg College track experience.
Yeah, that's great. As a former track athlete, I know that there's just something different about celebrating with others when it comes to a relay. It's a little different, I guess, from just an individual achievement. You can share it with others, and there's just a different dynamic there. And speaking of Katie McCoubry, leads into the next question. We had 2 very outstanding Katies here at the same time, and during the first 2 years of your career, you had the opportunity to learn from both of them. Really 2 of the best track and field athletes of all time at Gettysburg, and Katie Kavanaugh and Katie McCoubry. Now you and Katie Kavanaugh were both sprinters, both hurdlers, so you spent obviously a lot of time training and competing together. Katie McCoubry was more of a jump specialist, but also, as you mentioned, was a sprinter and excelled very well in the sprints as well. But from competing with those 2, what do you feel was the greatest impact that they may have made upon you during your 2 years with them?
Those 2 are wonderful student athletes and wonderful individuals, and I'm so glad I had the time with them as friends and as athletes. They were really, really good at impacting me in the fact that when I came into college, there were a lot of distractions, and I may not have wanted to devote as much time to the D3 sport as one would have liked. And they were so talented that they did a good job at making me realize that this is something I can make a lot out of, and the team is a family, and don't push it aside. This is something you really want to devote your time to. And watching them compete and watching their focus is where I think we get a lot of our focus and our drive. And that definitely is carried on from what I've seen. And their names still come up in practices every so often. And I was nowhere near to the caliber of Katie Cavanaugh, and that's fine with me because having the experience to watch her race and watch her get into focus and things like that is where I think I get a lot of my energy and things before I get into the race and into the blocks. I miss them dearly. They were great aspects for the team, but yeah, I think they were just two wonderful people that we were so fortunate to have.
Just in general, as we kind of wrap things up a little bit here, what would you say you like most about competing as a Gettysburg College track and field athlete?
What I like most? I mean, the team is so large, and the first thing that comes into mind is family. And Coach Hartzler has installed 4 qualifications almost that you need to follow as a Gettysburg Bullet on the track team. And that's number 1, that we are a family. Number 2, that we keep the positive attitudes at practice. Number 3, we're on time and efficient. And number 4, that we have an atmosphere of champions. And we don't just say those things. We say, yeah, we'll get quizzed in practice of what the 4 things are, but we follow them, and we really want those things to stick out for our team. And I'd have to say my favorite part would be the family, and we spend so much time together while we're at the track meets on the weekends, but then outside of the track team, they are there for me. We're doing work together. Just so many examples that come to mind for the team itself, and I'm really going to miss not being a part of it, but I know I can always look back to that I had them and that they will always be there if I need them.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time you'll spend with your track and field teammates when you're practicing as much as you do, and the long days at the track is something that's just a little bit different, I think, than maybe some sports don't experience. Last question, you biology major. Can you talk a little bit maybe about what your plans are beyond graduation, if you kind of know yet, maybe not?
Yeah, so I actually applied to grad school to get a master's in biomedical sciences for 2-year programs, and then next year I'll be applying to med school and hopefully getting into med school, and then from there forth, yeah.
Right. Well, thanks a lot, Sarah. Thanks for taking your time this afternoon to talk Gettysburg women's track and field. Best of luck on Saturday at Lehigh, and good luck the rest of the season. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it was Sarah Congdon of the Gettysburg College women's track and field team. The Bullets resume their indoor schedule this Saturday when they compete at the Lehigh University John Covert Classic. We'd like to thank you for following along here on Facebook Live this afternoon. You can watch an archive of this video on the Gettysburg College Athletics Facebook page shortly upon the conclusion of this interview. So have a great weekend, and go Bullets.